Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Claudine Longet? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. So first I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Claudine Longet was born in Paris, France on January 29, 1942. From an early age, she wanted to be an entertainer. At age 17, she started dancing on stage for tourists. A club owner saw her on television and offered her a job. She moved to the United States and worked at the Tropicana Hotel and Resort in Las Vegas as a dancer. Not long after this, she met Andy Williams, an extremely popular singer who had his own TV show. At this point, Andy was 32 years old and Claudine was 18. There are many stories about how the two met. One is that Andy helped Claudine after her car broke down. The couple would get married on December 15, 1961. They would have 3 children within 8 years. In 1963, Claudine appeared on the TV show McHale's Navy. She would go on to appear on a number of other series like Combat, 12 O'Clock High, and Hogan's Heroes. Claudine was offered a recording contract in 1966 with A&M Records. She recorded a number of albums and singles over the next several years. Claudine and Andy became friends with Robert F. Kennedy and his wife. Claudine was at the Ambassador Hotel on June 5, 1968, when Robert Kennedy was shot and killed by Sirhan Sirhan. She joined Kennedy's family at the hospital where he died on June 6. Andy Williams would sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic at Robert Kennedy's funeral. In 1970, Claudine and Andy legally separated. Andy would say that the couple remained very good friends. They just didn't want to be married anymore. In 1972, Claudine was at a celebrity ski race in California when she met the famous skier Vladimir Sabe, who went by the name Spider. The two became romantically involved quickly. Claudine spent time with Spider in his chalet in Aspen, Colorado. One of the couple's neighbors was John Denver. Claudine would move in with Spider permanently when her divorce was finalized. Claudine and Spider lived a party lifestyle that included excessive quantities of cocaine and alcohol. The couple was also having trouble as far as their romantic relationship. Spider was famous and attractive. He had a number of women expressing an interest in him. He was also quite interested in them. Claudine was becoming increasingly jealous. On one occasion, when the couple was at a nightclub, she threw a wine glass at his head because he wasn't paying enough attention to her. Before we move to the timeline of the crime, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Stamps.com. If you're looking for ways to skip the trip to the post office and dodge all that hectic holiday shopping traffic, why not save time and money with Stamps.com? Stamps.com lets you prepare rates, print labels, and access exclusive discounts on UPS and USPS services all year long. It just makes sense, especially if your business sends more mail and packages during the holidays. Whether you're selling online or running an office or side hustle, Stamps.com can save you so much time, money, and stress during the holidays. Access all the post office and UPS shipping services you need without taking the trip, and get discounts you can't find anywhere else, like up to 40% off USPS rates and 76% off UPS. Save time and money this holiday season with Stamps.com. Sign up at www.stamps.com/drgrande for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, free postage, and a digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. That's www.stamps.com/drgrande. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. We move to March 21, 1976. After spending the day skiing in Aspen, Spider came home and took off all his clothes, except for his thermal underwear, in preparation to take a shower. He was planning on going to a party alone that evening. He was in the bathroom when Claudine entered, carrying an imitation Luger semi-automatic pistol, chambered in .22 caliber rimfire. A real Luger is chambered in one of 2 cartridges, 7.65 by 21 millimeter and 9 by 19 millimeter, the well-known 9 millimeter Parabellum. Both of these rounds are substantially more powerful than a .22 rimfire. Claudine used that weapon to shoot Spider 1 time in his abdomen, He was hit just below his rib cage. The bullet penetrated his stomach and pancreas. The police were called. They found Spider slumped over in the bathroom. Spider was pronounced dead on arrival at a local hospital. Claudine said the shooting was an accident. The authorities were skeptical. They seized Claudine's 225-page journal, which was later described as explosive because it revealed information about how Claudine and Spider were not getting along. Claudine would later admit that Spider was thinking about moving out. The police ordered Claudine to provide a blood sample. They claimed she had cocaine in her system. Claudine was charged with reckless manslaughter on April 8, 1976. The prosecution's case suffered from a few setbacks during the trial. The police did not have a warrant for the journal or the blood sample, so both of those items of evidence were inadmissible. The police also allowed people unfamiliar with firearms to handle the weapon. So they were just kind of eroding the evidence that was available to present at the trial. To start with, there wasn't a lot of evidence to go on because this case was fairly confined in terms of the circumstances. One person shoots another as the victim is standing in a bathroom. So the police didn't do themselves any favors. A ballistics expert for the prosecution said that the gun was fired from a distance of 4 to 6 feet. Spider's body was found prone and facing away from where the pistol was fired. 2 police officers said that Claudine told them that she found the pistol, walked into the bathroom, pointed it at Spider, and said the words, "Bang, bang." After this, the pistol discharged, I guess as if it was taking some type of cue from Claudine's verbal expression. Claudine denied this account. She denied ever saying this to the police officers. Here's what she said happened. Spider was standing in the bathroom, and Claudine walked toward him with the gun in her hand, asking him to tell her about the gun. Spider told her that the gun would not fire. After this, the gun fired. Essentially, Claudine was saying that Spider was teaching her how to use the pistol while he was wearing his thermal underwear in the bathroom. In addition to the reckless manslaughter charge, the jury was allowed to consider negligent homicide. Reckless manslaughter is a felony which requires a conscious disregard of a substantial risk that an action could result in death. The standard for negligent homicide is a gross deviation from the standard of caution that a reasonable person could be expected to exercise. This charge is a misdemeanor, so the jury could consider a felony or a misdemeanor. After a trial that featured the testimony of Andy Williams and a badly outclassed prosecutor, the jury convicted Claudine of negligent homicide, so they went with the misdemeanor after all. She was sentenced to 30 days in jail. She was allowed to serve the time any way she wanted. She chose to serve it mostly on the weekends. She first entered the jail in April of 1977. She found the cell to be drab and uninspiring. She was allowed to repaint it, because one of the worst things that could happen in a jail is an uninspired inmate. The sheriff claimed that Claudine received no other special privileges. Claudine was sued by Spider's family. The case was dropped under the condition that Claudine never speak or write about the shooting. After the trial, Claudine went to Mexico with one of her defense attorneys, Ron Austin. He was married at the time and had 2 children. The couple would get married in June of 1985 after Ron Austin divorced his wife. Claudine Longet and Ron Austin live in Aspen, Colorado. Now moving to my analysis. Was Claudine Longet guilty? Let's take a look at the factors both for and against the idea that she was guilty, starting with the inculpatory evidence. Claudine retrieved a pistol that she had never handled before and shot Spider to death in a bathroom. Many things can occur to people as they're standing in a bathroom in their underwear. One thought that does not occur is, hey, I should give a firearm safety tutorial to my wife. If Spider did in fact select that particular moment to offer a safety lesson, the lesson wasn't very good. Lessons should never feature anybody being shot. There was a reason for Claudine to be angry in that moment. Spider was going to a party alone. He was known to be a bit of a player. He was looking for other love interests pretty much all the time. Claudine was described as possessive and clingy. The couple had fought many times before. The destructive nature of the relationship was memorialized in her journal. Spider had told an ex-girlfriend he could not get rid of Claudine and that she was throwing tantrums. Spider was preparing to end the relationship, or at least create some distance. Rumors suggested Spider wanted her to move out because her kids were cramping his style. At the time of the shooting, Claudine had both cocaine and alcohol in her system. The gun was fired about 4 to 6 feet away from Spider. That's an unusual distance if one person is giving a firearm lesson to another person. When the police arrived, Spider was on the bathroom floor. He was facing away from where Claudine had been standing. 2 police officers heard Claudine recount the bang-bang story, making it seem as though she was being playful with a gun. Now looking at the exculpatory evidence, a firearms expert said that the gun had a lot of grease around the firing mechanism, which could have caused a malfunction. Modern firearms do not just fire by themselves, but this was not a modern weapon. It was a very cheap imitation firearm, so perhaps it did have a correspondingly cheap firing mechanism. Even still, why did it just happen to malfunction at that moment? Why was the gun pointed at Spider in the first place? Spider was only shot one time with a .22, which is an unusual choice for homicide because it's not a particularly powerful cartridge. It's typically only used for target practice or hunting very small creatures. I think this could be explained by the fact that Claudine did not understand firearms. She didn't realize this wasn't a particularly effective choice. Although, of course, in this instance, she was able to bring an end to Spider's life. With all this in mind, do I think that Claudine was guilty of reckless manslaughter? I think she was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The jury didn't have all of the evidence. They didn't know about the journal or the cocaine and alcohol, but I still believe they should have found her guilty. At least they convicted her of negligent homicide, but then we see that the judge gives her a ridiculously light sentence. He could have sentenced her to 2 years, but he chose to go with just 30 days. Claudine totally escaped responsibility. What happened with this verdict and penalty? I think this is a case where the jury and the judge were enamored with Claudine's star power and attractiveness. They seemed to forget that Spider was also incredibly well-known and attractive, but he was dead and Claudine was alive. So I think this was just an instance where they were impressed by the person who they could see. After the verdict, speaking about Claudine, one of the jurors said, "By no means is she the type of person who should be in jail. I don't think she's a threat to society. Prosecuting her was a waste of money. There was no need to make this big fuss about it." Claudine's legal defense was paid for by Andy Williams, who of course could afford good attorneys. There was no question that her defense attorneys outclassed the prosecution by a wide margin. Even the prosecutor recognized this was the perception. Moving to my final thoughts, I think this was a case of 2 people who thought they were well matched, but realized in a painful way that they were not. They gave into a party lifestyle full of drugs and ended up discovering why that was a poor choice. Those are my thoughts in the case of Claudine Longet. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.